You just got out of this meeting at the White House. What specifically did you talk about? I know deregulation policy has been a big point for this administration. Can we expect more executive orders coming from the White House from a deregulatory front?
I'm convinced so, yes. There was a very good, honest discussion about the negative impact that regulation has been having in the whole economy. I mean, for example, we sit here today with hundreds of projects that have been sitting waiting approval for years, and we can't get them to take off. So there was a very sound discussion around sound, sensible regulation that really adds value.
Well, they also talked about infrastructure and the need for bilateral trade agreements. Now, when we talk about some of these agreements, are you concerned at all that perhaps the imports could negatively impact the U.S., especially when folks are relying on commodities markets, for example, like nickel?
Well, I think what is important to understand is that in a level playing field where all players have the same rules and abide by them, Americans have the capability to compete and win without a problem. Mm-hmm. And it's not about that we have a problem with imports. The problem we have is with dumping, people that don't respect the rules continuously, and in many cases, many of us manufacturers, actually, we don't compete against the company. We end up competing against the country.
Is there an appetite for this Congress to take on an infrastructure plan? Did you talk about when that could happen?
Believe, yes, and actually there is a very good discussion on how that should take place. You know, there is a sense out there that, if you'll remember, TARP,
yeah,
$800 billion or so, and can we account for what really improved from it? It's hard to do that. So the one important, crucial element in this is that there is a very well-structured prioritization process. I suggested that we use the Council of Governors because they're closer to their states, and there is a myriad of needs. I mean, we haven't had a serious infrastructure improvement process in place since President Eisenhower.
So what I'm hearing then is that infrastructure plan would rely on states to better allocate the funds or to be more involved in the process.
You include the states on the prioritization process. So there has to be a much better collaboration between federal and states, which also deals with the approval levels, because today it's sort of a one after another, so it takes forever to go through it. Let's do it together.
Mr. Longy, there's been a lot of talk about the consensus, but, you know, let's be frank here. You guys all don't necessarily agree on everything. Case in point, the border adjustment tax. Was that brought up at all, and where does that stand?
Oh, it was a very open discussion, and that's a topic that has defenders on both sides.
Yeah.
And I think one of the improvements that I saw in the discussion is the fact that, for example, we have our partners or people that trade with us. There are 165 countries out there that all have some type of border adjustment tax. We're the only ones that don't. So I think the word fairness was brought up in several moments of the conversation. So how do we establish a fair and balanced way in which trade will take place among or between countries?
And Mr. Longy, in the 30 seconds or so that we have left, another topic was vocational programs and educating the workforce, in particular for creating vocational type of jobs and working with community colleges. How important is that, and where do you think there might be common ground there?
Oh, there's common ground in full. The need for, you know, community college to a degree. I remember when I was going through high school, I took power mechanics and all that. All of those jobs are necessary today. And it's not just a high tech. So you have to have a combination of STEM and vocational subjects that fill the whole gap of needs. Today, we as companies are trying to make up for that. So I think there was a very robust discussion. I think we're going to have a pretty significant approach that will help.
And something like 500,000 jobs?
Yeah. Also, think about all the military folks that are coming back home and how capable and technically capable they are. So we really, our company, you know, is focusing very hard. We've been hiring a lot of the veterans returning. So I think that there is a great opportunity from the K schools all the way down.
Did anything about the executive orders on immigration come up at all? Both the ones that we're anticipating next week, as well as the ones that we saw earlier, the instructives we saw earlier this week, and the impact that might have on business?
Kevin. That was not a topic came up. It was a very well-structured approach, and immigration wasn't one that was.
Mr. Longy, we appreciate you coming on Bloomberg TV.